Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. I have been reporting on Manipur in several occasions. But what I have not done till date is do an editorial on Manipur. And there is a reason for it. I believe an editorial should be responsible. And I believe that every word that I say, I should be absolutely convinced, I should be absolutely sure about what I am saying. Till I am not sure, till I am not convinced, on hearsay, I normally don't give my editorials. So today is my first editorial on Manipur is because I believe I have a fair understanding of what has happened there. That's what I'm going to talk to you today. Let's get right into the show. For starters, let me fold my hands and ask people not to just brush aside Manipur violence as a Hindu-Christian violence. It is not. It is not. And the more we are going to propagate that, the more we are going to talk about it, the more we are going to put that narrative out in the country, the more we are creating problems. We are creating communal venom in our country. So let me start my editorial by saying that let us not just call this a Hindu versus Christian problem. Now let us understand what is Manipur's problem. In today's editorial, I will view this entire thing from four perspectives. First, let us view this from the Meitei perspective. Then let us view this from a Kuki perspective. And then let us view this from the state government's perspective, and finally from the Prime Minister's perspective. So that's how we will divide this. Let me start with the Meiteis. Now, 60% of the state population are Meiteis. Meiteis are predominantly Hindus. Meiteis live in Imphal, the valley. Meiteis, because they live in the valley, has a fairly decent infrastructure in terms of schooling, infrastructure in terms of drinking water, infrastructure in terms of healthcare, so on and so forth. So they have a fairly decent infrastructure. But there is a problem. The problem is they are limited to the valley. They are limited to the valley. So 60% of the population stays in roughly around 10 to 15% of the landmass. And 90% of the landmass caters to, say, 40% of the population. That's the way this entire thing is working currently. So there is a need for Meiteis to expand, to get into more land, to have more land for themselves. There is a need for them. Now there is a problem. The problem is that the hills are occupied by Kukis, by scheduled tribe, Kukis and Nagas. Now, to give you a broad statistics, Kukis consists of 40%. Kukis and Nagas put together consist of 40% of the state population, and 60% of the state population is Meitei. So this is how it is divided. Now the thing is that Kukis and Nagas are hill people, so they stay in the hill. In fact, 90 to 95% of Kukis and Nagas live in the hill. And like I told you, 90 to 95% Meiteis live in the city or the valley. So the point is, the Meiteis wants to get into the hill, but they are not able to because there are a lot of restrictions, because they are not scheduled tribe. Therefore, they have been fighting. They have been fighting to be categorized as scheduled tribe. They have been constantly talking about it for the last so many years. All of a sudden, this year, a single member bench, I don't even know whether that single member bench had the authority to do it, had the authority to overrule a larger bench, but did it. A single member bench headed by, the single member was Justice M.V. Muralidharan. Justice M.V. Muralidharan asked the state government to recommend to the central government to take a decision on Meitei, on making Meitei scheduled tribe. So that sparked the entire problem. Now, this is from Meitei's point of view. If you see, Meitei says, listen, you know what? We need to expand too. We need land too. So therefore, we want to get into the hills, but I'm not able to get into the hills till such time that categorized as scheduled tribe, and they are not categorized currently as scheduled tribe. So I can't go to the hills. So that's Meitei's problem. That's from Meitei's perspective. Now look at it from Kuki's perspective. First and foremost is, there is this major imbalance of power. Major imbalance of power. In fact, 40 out of the 60 MLAs in Manipur are from the Kuki, are from the Meitei community. 40 out of 60 MLAs. Which means, not simple majority, they almost control the assembly, the Manipur assembly. Now Kuki has this problem because Kuki say, listen, you know what, hamara power kidhar hai? Imbalance of power. Decisions are taken by Meiteis because they've got sheer brute majority in the assembly. That's what Kukis say. Kukis say that, listen, you know what, hamare pe bahut, every time we are getting into trouble. Every time we have been told that we are growing poppies, which means we are dealing in drugs. And there has been poppy cultivation, which is not wrong. There has been poppy cultivation in Manipur hills. And the government has been, and especially N Biren Singh government has come down very heavily on that poppy cultivation. Now the Kukis have constantly been saying that we are not the ones who are cultivating poppies. It is not, it's not a community thing like. But the fact is the government has been coming down on them. So Kuki says, government, look at purely from a Kukis perspective. Kukis feels that, okay, there is imbalance of power in the assembly. Kukis feel that, because possibly because there is imbalance of power, we are targeted every time. Everything that goes wrong, we are targeted. When there is poppy cultivation, fingers are pointed at us. When Myanmar Kukis comes into Manipur, for them, it is their own ethnic tribe. But then, every Kuki is looked with a suspicion, कि तुम कहाँ से है, Myanmar से कि India से? So, that there is a problem. Thirdly, they say that, listen, we have been driven out of our houses, saying on the pretext of forest protection. So, Kukis primarily feel that, everything is going wrong for them. There is an injustice that's happening against them. Now, the fact is, are poppies grown? Yes, poppies are grown. Should we put a stop to poppies? Of course, we should put a stop to poppies. Should we reserve forest? Of course, we should reserve forest. Should we keep a check on migrants, illegal migrants to India? Yeah, we should keep a check on illegal migrants to India. So, was the government wrong? Yes, the government was wrong. And I will tell you why. I will tell you why. Now, let us come to the government's perspective. You see, governance is not just about implementing of rule, especially an elected government. Enforcement is about implementation of rule. Judiciary is about implementation of rule. But an elected government is not just about implementing the rule. There is something called as law in letter and spirit. An elected government is more about the spirit. You see, first and foremost it is not alien to people like N Biren Singh, who has been the chief minister of that state, and politicians there, that Kukis are feeling that injustice is being done to them. It is not something that they are not aware of. They are aware of this. So when you are cracking down on poppy cultivation, when you are trying to reserve your forest, when you are trying to stop illegal immigrants, you should be mindful of the fact that it has to be handled with a kid glove. Every Kuki coming in from Myanmar is ethnically related to the Kukis in Manipur. So the point is, somewhere down the line, the government has to be mindful of that. The government has to be mindful of the fact that, listen, you know what? Poppy cultivation has to be stopped. But somewhere down the line, always blaming it on Kuki. Kuki always seen as a community that is into drug trade. Well, that may not be the best way to go about it. There has to be use of kid gloves. There has to be use of kid gloves. So the fact is, I think what the government didn't understand is the sensitivity of Kukis. What this government didn't understand is that the Kukis has to be taken care of. They have to be spoken to. They have to be cajoled if need be. That's what an elected government does. That's what an elected government does. Make every community, minority or majority, comfortable. Because the Kukis started feeling it is a majoritarian government. Government decisions are majoritarian based. And that's what got them uncomfortable. That's what got them uncomfortable. And this decision from Justice M.V. Muralidharan, where he said that, go to central government and recommend that, Meitei should be given scheduled tribe status, that triggered it. That triggered it all. That triggered it all. So 1 wrong, 2 wrong, 3 wrong, 4 wrong, and that's what happened. Now, in all of this, there was an element of Hindu, there was an element of Christian, there was church burning, all of this happened too. But the real reason is not that. The moment we take that as the real reason, the actual problem, the crux of the problem vanishes off. And if you don't solve the crux of the problem, we will be talking about the symptom, not the disease. And the fact is that is wrong. It is wrong information. So that's the point from the government perspective. Now let me talk about the Prime Minister of India. You see, it's a very simple thing, and I normally put my logics from a humanitarian point of view and from a simple point of view. I do not believe in using jargons and laws, and you see, it's a very simple thing. When a child is unwell, a small little child is unwell, the father, before going to office, because going to office is important, the father or the mother, before going to office, goes to that child, sits with her, pets her and says, don't worry beta, I will be back. And kuch nahi hoga. I'm there. I'll take care of you. And you go and go about your work. The child feels good. The child feels good is because her parents have come and petted her. She feels good. She's unwell, but she feels good. That's exactly what is expected out of the leader of the country. I am nobody to say that he should not be going to US or he should not be going to Egypt or he should not be going to anywhere. I am nobody to say. But going and petting that state and saying that, listen, don't worry, I am there. Nothing will happen to you. We will take care of all this. You are angry with us, we will sort it out for you. This is what Manipur was expecting. Manipur, which has only 2 Lok Sabha seats. They may not be able to make much of a difference in any elections, or they may not be able to make much of a difference to any political party, just 2 Lok Sabha seats. But this is what Manipur expects. And that didn't happen. And that was saddening. That indeed was saddening. So to conclude, I have a point to make and a few questions to ask. The point I want to make is, please do not take this issue as a Christian-Hindu issue. This is not just a Christian-Hindu issue. There is history to this issue. There is a backdrop to this issue. Please look at this issue from a holistic perspective. That's the point number 1 I want to make. The question I need to ask is, you see, if Kukis are not comfortable with the chief minister, if the Kuki are not comfortable with the chief minister handle this particular issue, why can't we change the chief minister? Isn't it important that everybody feels safe? What about getting president's rule? Isn't it important that if a change of a chief minister can put this matter to rest, so we do it? Isn't that more important? That's my question number 2. My question number 3 is, why? Why is the Prime Minister mum on this subject? Why is the Prime Minister not talking about it? Why is the Prime Minister not visiting Manipur? Why is the Prime Minister not saying anything about Manipur? What is stopping him from doing it? So in this 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever the time I've taken, I have tried to explain the soul of the problem without getting much into details. I'm sure a lot of people have spoken details. Some of the details are some of the people who have spoken very well and very, very rightly so. Some interviews are fabulous. I have tried to touch the soul of the problem. I hope I've communicated the soul of the problem to you. Rest you decide. Before I end my show, I've got a very interesting dialogue for you tomorrow.
जिस दिन मैं अन्ना का ब्लॉगर यानी अन्ना के लिए पहला ब्लॉग लिखा, उस दूसरे दिन अन्ना ने मौन शुरू किया, तो पूरा मीडिया सामने आया, बोला कि तो का मतलब मैं बोलूंगा अभी जो बोलना है। तो अन्ना मौन पे पूरे देश में हाहाकार के अन्ना मौन। और मेरी बेटी थी घर में, अंदर से मेरा फोन वहां से लेके दौड़ते हुए, बाबा अन्ना का फोन है। और रवि अंबेकर जस्ट दरवाजे पे था
और अन्ना कौन व्रत में था।
रवि को सब मालूम था, ये चापलूसी सब इसकी। तो मुझे रवि ने कुछ बेचारे ने वो किया नहीं, रिवील नहीं बाहर किया, लेकिन पूरा इंटरव्यू होने के बाद मुझे पूछा कि अन्ना से बात हुआ ना।
Raju, what was this India against corruption all about? What was the real reason for this?
Ambition.
Whose
Personal ambition. Arvind.
So how did Anna get roped in?
See, number 1 is Arvind, number 2 is Arvind, number 11, 12, 13 is Arvind.
And how did Anna get roped into this?
अन्ना एक, आपको स्क्रिप्ट मैंने बोला ना कि मैं आज़ाद हूँ में एक ऐसा अनाथ आदमी चाहिए कि जिसके आगे पीछे कोई नहीं, जिसकी न्यूज़ बन सके, जो रिसेम्बलेंस हो जिसका गांधी जी वगैरह से। तो वो अन्ना उनको मिल गया। वो ढूंढते रहे लेकिन उम्र भी है, और यानी अनशन का वो कितना भी टाइम बढ़ा सकते हो, कैसे मुझे मत पूछो, लेकिन कितना भी टाइम अनशन कर सकते। ये सब जो सीन है वो अन्ना की कैरेक्टर को फिट था।
So you are actually telling me that it is not Anna who created Arvind Kejriwal, it is Arvind Kejriwal who created Anna.
Of course. Yes, Arvind Kejriwal is a very sharp and his political acumen is amazing.
10 o'clock. Don't miss it. Till then, namaskar.